Hi there, I'm John Threadguard, and I'm a focusing and experiential psychotherapist. And in this brief video, I'm going to be talking about panic attacks and how focusing and experiential psychotherapy can actually help people cope with panic attacks. The first thing I want to say about panic is that panic is just a natural thing that is a response to given situations. It's quite natural in some ways to have a little panic if we've suddenly discovered that we've gone out the house, we've locked the door, we pulled the door shut, and we don't have our keys. How are we going to get in? It alerts us in a way that something's gone wrong. So panic is not something, therefore, to be totally shunned or thought of as being something that's terrible. But the question surfaces really is that when panic is coming in very inappropriate circumstances, when we panic for no apparent reason, when it's interfering with our lives and doing ordinary everyday activities, then that's the time, of course, that we need to get help. Now, a lot of people, most of us, have certain standard responses to this. Sometimes we try and push the panic away, or we try and just get rid of it. But quite often that doesn't work. Sometimes we might try and convince ourselves of the irrationality of our panic. Supposing you have somebody who panics every time they go on a long train journey, well, they might try and reason it through. They might say, well, actually, I've done this journey several times and nothing bad has happened. I've actually checked out the safety record of the particular company concerned, and they have a very good safety record. I've actually checked out, and there hasn't been an accident on this line for the past 10 years. And therefore it's not reasonable or rational to panic. Now, sometimes, of course, reasoning it through can help, but quite often it doesn't help, and that's a real problem. So if it doesn't have the effect of being less panicky, then it hasn't really worked. So how then, in terms of a therapy session, how would a therapist, a focusing and experiential therapist like myself, actually help you with the panic? Well, the first thing is that I would want to create a really good relationship with you, so that you can feel you can feel that you can really trust what's happening. You can trust that it's a safe place to deal with your panic. Now, the second thing is that all of us are body. We are if like a person-infused body, and the body is often, in my experience, the key to emotional healing. So one of the things I might do is just suggest that you ground yourself, and grounding just means really being grounded in your body. It's noticing the floor beneath your feet. It's noticing how the chair supports you. Just get a sense of how your whole body is being supported by the chair, by the environment. And the third thing is to just make sure that you feel safe and that you can stop the exercise at any time. Your emotional well-being is at the top of the list when it comes to priorities. So the next stage then, knowing that, maybe you can then just contact the panicky bit, the panicky part of you, and see it. Perhaps you might want to think of yourself, say it's going on a plane. You might want to think of yourself as just maybe imagining yourself moving towards that plane, maybe getting ready to go on the plane. And as soon as you notice the panic arising, it's very important not to be overwhelmed by the panic, but to actually imagine yourself sitting with that panicky part as you would perhaps a panicky child. And here you don't simply tell this panicky child to stop panicking because it's not reasonable, or you don't try and logically persuade it that the panic isn't logical, because you know that already. But what you do is you'd sense, well, where is the panic in my body? Now sometimes all sorts of reactions. Sometimes people can feel it in their head, the panicky thoughts in their head, with not a lot going on elsewhere. Other times it's the panicky thoughts in the head, and then maybe the panicky feeling in the chest or the stomach. And here it's very important is the relationship that you have to what you're experiencing. And what I mean by that is that you're not in the middle of the panic. You're not trying to analyse it or judge it or condemn it, but you're noticing where the panic is, and if you like, you have a little distance from it. And first thing you might want to do is just acknowledge, okay, there's a part of me, there's something in me that's really panicking about this. And you treat that part with some love and compassion. And you just sit with it. Now what you might find is that the panic doesn't really belong to that particular situation that you're imagining. It might belong to a childhood incident or a number of childhood incidents. It might properly belong there, but it's never been worked through, it's never been processed. So what you do is you just keep it company. You check out the word panic to see whether that's the right word that fits the experience. And as you acknowledge it and you be with it, people have a variety of responses to that. They might find that the panicky bit gets a bit more intense and then begins to just subside and drain away. Sometimes the panic might turn into something else of its own accord without you trying to change it. It might turn from panic perhaps to an anxiety, and then you check out the word anxiety and you keep it company. Sometimes you might get a memory associated with this, or perhaps a series of memories, and again the important thing is to be in relationship with it. Now you might say, well, what on earth is the point of that exercise? The point is that when you can begin to, horrible word, but I'm going to use it now, process what you've experienced in the therapy room, and when you learn, for example, to notice the panicky feelings, to acknowledge them, to be with them outside of the therapy room, what people have fed back to me as a therapist is that the panicky feelings, firstly, they become a lot less strong when they're actually in that situation, and eventually the panicky feelings will just not come up at all. And that's because you're noticing it, sitting within it, being with it, and processing it. And indeed, a kind, compassionate attitude to those parts of you that are panicky are indeed the best way of reintegrating what has become split off. This panic, perhaps associated with a particular event or series of events, has split off and is now responding to external sort of stimulus, or maybe to particular thoughts. But when you reintegrate it, if you like, when you go through it, when you process it and experience it no longer becomes the threat that it was. So now I'm not suggesting that you take this video as a substitute for therapy, but next time you feel those panicky feelings, just try noticing them, B, saying hello and acknowledging them, and B, C, not trying to change them. And I would suggest that in most instances, when you do this, the panic itself begins to subside. And you may also want to actually get some focusing and experiential therapy from somebody such as myself, where it's a real safe environment for you to explore and begin to to be relieved of those painful feelings. Well, thanks for looking, thanks for listening. I hope this has been helpful.